I am begging you. Give me 30 seconds. That's all I need, not to impress you, not to convince you of anything. Just to speak to the part of you that's been silent for too long. If something pulled you here, whether it was a whisper, a breakdown, or blind luck, know this: it wasn't random. You were meant to hear these words. Maybe not for who you are in this moment, but for the version of you that's been buried underneath pain, pressure, and pretending. I can feel it. You're tired. Not the kind of tired sleep fixes, but soul tired. The exhaustion that comes from carrying wounds you never asked for, from being strong for everyone else, and forgetting how to be soft for yourself, from waiting for someone to notice, to ask, to care enough to look past your smile and see the ache underneath. And no one did. So you stopped expecting them to. You decided you'd just handle it, like you always do. But even warriors get wounded. Even the strong have breaking points. And sometimes the loudest cries are the ones that never make a sound. That's why I'm here, because maybe you haven't said it out loud, but you've thought it: I'm not okay. And that thought didn't make you weak. It made you honest. You've been wearing a mask for so long you forgot what your real face looks like. You've been so busy holding it together for everyone else. You didn't notice you were slowly falling apart, not dramatically, quietly. The kind of falling apart that looks like over-explaining, like apologizing for taking up space, like shrinking when you should be shining. You've been whispering, "I'm fine," to avoid explaining why you're not. And deep down, you've been hoping someone would look into your eyes and say, "You don't have to be." So let me say it to you now. You don't have to be. You don't have to be okay. Not today. Not this second. All you have to do is breathe. All you have to do is stay with me. Because what's coming next is not just healing. It's remembrance. You are not here by accident. You are here because something sacred inside you still believes. And I promise, that part of you is enough. You didn't choose this pain. You didn't ask for it. But you've been carrying it like it's yours to bear. Silently, responsibly, like it's your duty to hold it together, no matter how much it hurts. Somewhere along the way, life taught you that vulnerability is dangerous, that if you cry, you're weak, that if you break, you become a burden. So you stopped breaking in front of people. You saved your tears for the shower, your breakdowns for late nights, and your truths for no one at all. But pain doesn't disappear just because you hide it. It waits. It settles into your body, into your chest, into your breath. It shows up in your tension, in your overthinking, in your mistrust, in the way your heart races when you get too close to someone, even when they've done nothing wrong. It shows up when someone says, "I care about you," and your first instinct is to doubt it. Not because you're broken, but because you've been taught that care often comes with a cost. You were probably the one who loved too loudly, too early. The one who gave and gave, even when it wasn't returned. The one who saw the best in people, even when they were showing you their worst. And when it all collapsed, when they walked away, or lied, or disappeared, you didn't rage. You blamed yourself. You wondered if you were too much or not enough. You questioned what you could have done differently, how you could have fixed it. But you were never the problem. You were just loving people who didn't know how to receive it. You were trying to build a home in hearts that only knew how to burn bridges, and you're still hurting. Not because you were naive, but because you were real. Because you showed up with your whole heart in a world that keeps telling you to guard it. Because you gave pieces of yourself to people who didn't even know how to hold them. Let me tell you something. No one told you back then. Their inability to love you wasn't a reflection of your worth. It was a reflection of their limitations. You weren't too emotional. You weren't too intense. You weren't too deep. You were just real in a world full of people hiding behind half-truths and filters. And that's why it hurt. Because the betrayal wasn't just their exit. It was the realization that someone you trusted couldn't meet you at the depth you offered them. But you're still here. Still breathing. Still carrying that soft, brave heart. And that means healing is still possible. Do you know how heavy it is to be strong all the time? To be the one who holds everything and everyone together? while slowly unraveling on the inside, to be the one people call when they're falling apart. But no one thinks to ask if you're okay. You've carried strength like armor, worn it so long it feels like skin. But there are days, quiet, suffocating days, when even that armor cracks. You wake up, and the first thing you feel is exhaustion. Not from lack of sleep, but from the emotional labor of pretending that you're fine, pretending that things don't hurt, pretending you don't miss the people who hurt you. You move through the day, putting out fires for others, while your own soul quietly smolders in the background. People admire you. They say things like, "You're so strong," and they mean it as a compliment. But what they don't see is that strength isn't always a choice. Sometimes it's a survival mechanism. You weren't born wanting to be the strong one. You became that way because life didn't give you another option. You learned to hold back tears because the people around you didn't know how to hold space for your pain. You learned to toughen up because softness was seen as weakness. You learned to be okay with being alone because the ones you trusted didn't stay. And in all that learning, you started to lose pieces of yourself. You forgot what it felt like to be held without having to be the one doing the holding. You forgot what it felt like to breathe without constantly bracing for disappointment. You forgot what it meant to rest, not physically, but emotionally, to exhale without fear, to speak without censoring your truth, to just exist, messy and unfiltered, and still be loved for it. That's why your healing won't be loud. It won't be about proving anyone wrong or forcing them to understand. Your healing will come in the quiet moments, when you finally give yourself permission to let go. Let go of the people who couldn't stay. Let go of the need to be strong every second of the day. Let go of the guilt for needing support. Let go of the lie that said your emotions make you a burden. Because you are not a burden. You are a miracle. A soul that's still showing up, still choosing love, still holding hope in a world that gave you 100 reasons to go numb. And that is strength in its truest form. Here's the truth. No one told you when everything fell apart. It wasn't your fault. Not the way they treated you. Not the way they left. Not the way they made you question your worth. Like it was something fragile. You were never the problem. You were simply offering something too rare to be held by unready hands. Real love. Real loyalty. Real depth. And when people aren't ready for real, they run. Or worse, they stay just long enough to drain you and then leave you empty. You've spent so much time wondering what you did wrong, what made them switch up, what made them stop caring. You've replayed conversations in your head, trying to find the moment it all shifted, trying to find the exact word, the exact breath, the exact second they stopped seeing your value. But here's the truth. They never really saw it, not fully. Because if they did, they would have protected it. They would have shown up. They would have stayed. But just because they didn't see it doesn't mean it wasn't there. You are not invisible. You are not forgettable. You are not replaceable. You are rare. You are deep. You are layered in ways the shallow can't swim in. You are complex in ways simple people can't hold. And that's not a flaw. That's your design. You were never meant to be easy to digest. You were never meant to be liked by everyone. You were meant to be loved by the few who truly see you, who feel you, who respect the light you carry and the storm you survived to still hold it. And I know you've been dimming yourself, shrinking, toning yourself down so people feel more comfortable, laughing when something hurt just to keep the peace, making yourself smaller in rooms that were never built to contain you in the first place. But let me ask you this. When will it be your turn? When will you stop pretending you're okay with less than you deserve? When will you stop accepting breadcrumbs and calling it love? You don't have to beg to be chosen. You don't have to chase to be loved. What is meant for you will feel safe, not scary. It will be gentle, not confusing. It will be consistent, not chaotic, and it will not require you to abandon yourself just to keep someone else close. The moment you remember who you are, truly remember, everything begins to shift. Not because life gets easier, but because your spirit refuses to settle for anything less than real ever again. Something inside you is waking up, slowly, gently, almost like the quiet rise of the sun after a long freezing night. It's not loud. It's not sudden. It's subtle, a stirring in your chest, a soft voice returning that you almost forgot belonged to you. It's the part of you that remembers, the version of you that existed before the hurt, before the betrayal, before the world taught you to second-guess your worth. You've spent so long trying to be enough for people who were never even full themselves. You made your heart a home for others, even when they tracked mud across your boundaries. You've stretched yourself to be more forgiving, more understanding, more patient, more available, and yet it still wasn't enough. Not because you were lacking, but because they were never capable of receiving what you gave. You kept watering dead things, hoping they'd bloom, blaming yourself when they didn't. But baby flowers only grow where there are roots, not in places built to drain you. And yet, you kept showing up. Even when it hurt, even when you were tired, even when you were unraveling in silence. And that kind of love, that kind of spirit, is not weak, it's sacred. And it's time you give it back to yourself. This awakening, it's not about becoming someone new. It's about returning to who you've always been. Underneath the survival, underneath the coping, underneath the layers of armor you had to build just to make it through. It's about hearing your own voice again, and recognizing it's worth listening to. It's about trusting your intuition, the one you silenced because they made you feel crazy for noticing things too soon, feeling things too deeply, loving things too fully. You were never too much. You were always just misread by people who only knew how to skim the surface. But you were written in layers, in paragraphs, in poetry. You are not a caption. You are a novel, and your story deserves to be read by someone who doesn't skip chapters. This is the beginning of that story. Not a comeback, not a reinvention, but a remembering. You are not here to chase love. You are here to radiate it. You are not here to earn rest. You are here to claim it. And you are not here to be quiet anymore. You are here to rise. This is where the shift happens. Not in some grand announcement, not in a viral post, not in anyone's applause, but right here, in this quiet decision. I'm not abandoning myself anymore. That's it. That's the line in the sand. That's the moment your life begins to change. Because you've done enough bending, enough over-explaining, enough giving chances to people who kept showing you the same patterns in prettier packaging. You don't owe anyone the version of you that made them comfortable while you suffered in silence. You don't have to dim just so they don't feel insecure in your light. You don't have to tolerate disrespect and then call it love just because you're scared to be alone. Being alone isn't empty. Being misunderstood, that's empty. Being in the wrong room, shrinking yourself to fit, twisting your soul to be accepted, that is lonely. But being in your own energy, protecting your peace, choosing your heart over their chaos, that is the beginning of real belonging. Because your people, the ones who are meant to walk with you, will never ask you to shrink. They will never weaponize your emotions. They will never make you question if you're lovable. You've learned this the hard way. Through silence, through ghosting, through betrayal, dressed in promises. But look at what you've built through that pain. Discernment, boundaries, wisdom, self-respect. You're not cold. You're clear. You're not guarded. You're grounded. And now you get to move differently. You no longer chase. You no longer beg. You no longer sit at tables where your voice isn't heard. You no longer explain your worth to people committed to misunderstanding it. You walk. You rise. You choose yourself. Again and again. Not because you're selfish, but because you finally understand this truth. No one is coming to save you. You are the one. The love you've been waiting for. The home you've been searching for. The voice you've needed to hear. And that voice? It's back now. Louder. Stronger. Calmer. It tells you the truth you forgot for a while. You are enough. Not when you're more polished. Not when you've healed completely. Not when you're over it. Right now, as you are enough. And you always have been. Breathe. Right here. Right now. Not for anyone else. Not to keep up appearances. Just for you. You've carried so much. You've held worlds together while yours was falling apart. You've forgiven what should have broken you. You've continued on paths others would have collapsed under, and maybe no one clapped. Maybe no one noticed. But the universe did. Your soul did, and right now in this stillness you are being seen. This is your rebirth. Not a reinvention, a return to softness, a return to truth, a return to the sacred voice inside you that always knew you were never meant to suffer forever. This pain you've endured, it had purpose. It refined you, it woke you up, it burned away the illusion and left only what's real. And what's real is this. You don't have to chase anyone to be worthy. You don't have to explain your heart. You don't have to stay where you're tolerated just because you're scared of starting over. Starting over isn't failure. It's freedom. It's the whisper that says, you get to try again, this time, without abandoning yourself. There is life after loss. There is clarity after chaos. There is love after betrayal. Most importantly, the kind you give to yourself. You can still rebuild. You can still open your heart. You can still laugh again, fully, freely, without waiting for it to be taken away. You can become the version of yourself that once felt out of reach, because they were never out of reach. They were just waiting for you to return. And now you stare here. Not perfect, not healed all the way, but present, still breathing, still soft, still strong, and that is more than enough. So if no one's told you lately, I'm proud of you. Not because you pretended to be okay, but because you kept going. Even when you weren't. You've done so much more than survive. You've grown. You've shed. You've transformed. Now go live like it. Not for revenge. Not to prove them wrong. But to honor the version of you who fought so hard just to still be here. Before we close, I want you to really pause and think about this. Look at everything you've survived. Quietly. The pain you didn't post about. The nights you didn't tell anyone you were crying. The times you showed up, smiled, laughed, while secretly carrying the weight of a world that was crumbling underneath you. The losses you grieved in silence. The trust you gave away and never got back. The forgiveness you offered to people who never said sorry. The love you gave to people who couldn't return it. You survived things most people couldn't even imagine. And you did it without applause. And I know you often minimize it. You brush it off. You tell yourself, other people have it worse. And while that may be true, it doesn't mean your pain didn't matter. It doesn't mean your story isn't sacred. It doesn't mean your strength isn't stunning. You've carried burdens that didn't belong to you. Emotions that weren't yours to hold. You've been the strong one, the fixer, the peacekeeper, the one who kept showing up, even when nobody showed up for you. But not anymore. Now it's your turn to be seen, to be soft, to be held. Even if the only arms around you for now are your own, you're allowed to put the armor down. You're allowed to heal out loud. You're allowed to stop surviving and start receiving. Because what you've been through isn't just trauma. It's testimony. What you've overcome isn't weakness. It's a blueprint for how strong you really are. So no more shrinking. No more silence. No more apologizing for what you had to survive. Your survival is not just enough. It's sacred. Honor it, then walk forward with your head high and your spirit whole. Because you, my friend, are the evidence that even in the darkness, light survives.